I assumed waking up in a morgue was a miracle. But the same agents were waiting and took me right back underground. My body repaired itself faster each and every time that they hurt me. Whatever they injected me with is still working, and I don't think there's a limit. Today's story is entitled, The Day I Stopped Being Able to Die, and it was posted to the r/creepypasta subreddit by Throwaway Life Test. Welcome everybody, my name is CC and this is the Crucible of Character. I'm excited for today's story, and if you enjoy it, please make sure to stay to the end, comment your thoughts down below, comment what you do differently, and as always, keep an eye out for the lesson. And if you enjoy today's story, please make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss tomorrow's story as well. I do post every day that is a weekday, and I read and I appreciate and I respond to all the comments that you want to send in. Now without further ado, the story. I should have died on the side of that highway. That's what everyone said afterward. The EMTs, the surgeons, the cops who came to take photos of the wreck. You shouldn't be here, one of them muttered, shaking his head like I'd cheated somehow. I remember flashes of it. Headlights screeching, brakes, metal folding like paper. And then, nothing. Then everything. Waking up in the ambulance wasn't part of the miracle. That happens sometimes, they said. Shock, adrenaline, people just bounce back sometimes. The miracle part was that when they cut my clothes off in the ER, there weren't any wounds to treat. Not really, anyway. I saw the nurse freeze with the scissors still in her hand. There was dried blood everywhere, but the skin underneath was intact. No glass embedded, no open gashes, nothing, except bruises, already fading from purple to yellow. The chart says he coded twice, the doctor snapped. Where is his... They wheeled me away before I heard the rest. They kept me for observation. Every time I closed my eyes, I knew I'd see that car crash again. But sleep came too easily. My body didn't feel like it had been in an accident. It felt reset, like waking up after a long nap instead of a near-death experience. On the second night, a man in a suit came into my room instead of a nurse. He didn't introduce himself. He just checked the door, closed the blinds, and sat down in the visitor's chair. "You're feeling okay?" he asked. "Better than I should," I said. "I thought they were going to keep me longer." "They are," he said, "just not here." Two more men entered, same suits, same expressionless faces. They disconnected my IV with practiced, casual motions and handed me a clipboard with a few lines of text and a signature line at the bottom. "Transfer of care to a higher level facility," the suited man said. "Special trauma recovery. You'll get better treatment there." "I feel fine," I said. He held my gaze. "You're a very lucky man. We'd like to understand that better." They loaded me into another ambulance, but this time there were no markings on the outside, no sirens, no lights, just a quiet drive to somewhere that felt further away than it should have been. The new facility didn't at all feel like a hospital. Everything was way too controlled. Doors needed badges, cameras stared from every corner. The room they put me in had a bed, sure, but no call button, no windows, no clock, just a security camera with a red light that never turned off. They started with blood draws, scans, reflex tests, normal enough. Then they stopped pretending. A doctor, if he was a doctor, came in with a tablet and a stack of forms. "We're going to be running some stress response trials," he said. "We suspect your physiology reacts differently to catastrophic trauma." "How differently?" I asked. He smiled like we were talking about a unique allergy. "You walk away from things that should kill you." He didn't ask for my consent. He just told me what was going to happen. The first test was blunt force. They strapped me to a gurney and rolled me into a room lined with padded walls. A machine with a metal arm loomed overhead. The arm had a blunt plate at the end, heavy enough to shatter bone. "Breathe normally," said someone over a speaker. I didn't have time to even beg. The impact to my leg was like being hit by a car all over again. I heard the crack before I felt the full pain. A white, hot line shooting up my femur. I screamed, or at least I tried to, but the sound came out thin and broken. Then, just as quickly as it started, the pain cut out. I actually watched as the swelling went down beneath the skin. The wrong angle of my knee straightened, muscle tightening and knitting back together. The bone that had just broken realigned without anyone even touching it. Time to closure? 43 seconds. The voice noted calmly. Improved from prior event. Prior event. How many times have you done this? I gasped. To you? The voice said. Once, during the crash. That was the baseline. They kept going. Lacerations, controlled burns, even controlled drowning, face down in a tank with a respirator, held just out of reach until my lungs screamed and my vision went black. Every time the agony ripped through me like a storm, and then my body would shut it off. Not slowly, not naturally, like someone flipped a switch inside of me. Bruises faded while I lay there panting. Cuts sealed without stitches, leaving thin white lines that vanished within minutes. Scans showed cells dividing faster than they should, damaged tissue replaced by something cleaner, too clean, efficient in a way that flesh shouldn't be. They never bandaged me, never gave me pain meds, just new trials, new data points, new ways to push the limits. You're making progress, the main researcher, Dr. Hale. Mistake. You're making progress. The main researcher, Dr. Hale, though I doubt that was his real name, said one day, as if I were a study partner instead of a lab rat. What happens when you're done? I asked. He tilted his head, considering. We'll see if your condition is stable in uncontrolled environments. You mean you'll let me go? If you remain viable. The word viable stuck in my head. I tried to find ways to die. I know how that sounds, but you don't understand what it's like to have death taken off the table. It's not a relief. It's a ceiling that just magically disappears. The worst thing in the world used to be dying. Now, it was knowing that there might not be an end to what they could do to me. When they left me alone one night, I tried to break my own neck. I rolled off the bed and slammed my head into the floor again and again until my vision went white and my body seized. I woke up with a sore spot and a note on my bedside tray. Unauthorized self-test. Recovery, 19 seconds. They were tracking even that. The next phase went beyond damage. They started measuring changes. My heart rate after events barely spiked anymore. I didn't sweat. I didn't shake. My body snapped back to a resting state too quickly, like it had stopped bothering with shock altogether. I stopped bruising. Needles slid into my skin and out, leaving no mark whatsoever. Pain response is flattening, Hale said, almost proudly. Fascinating. It still hurts, I said, voice flat. I remember it. For now, he said. That scared me more than anything else. The last test they ran, at least the last one in the facility, was a gunshot. They didn't warn me. Hale just nodded to someone behind the glass, and I heard the muffled pop. Heat boomed in my shoulder. My back slammed into the wall. I saw red spray the tiles. Then, slow motion, blood crawling back upwards into my wound. Tissue closing, torn fabric knitting around the hole that no longer existed. Time to resolution, 16 seconds, Hale said. Very good. Very good. They released me a week later. Just like that. No fanfare and no announcement that the trial was over. They gave me my clothes, a pair of sunglasses I'd never owned, and a packet with a phone number and a line, for follow-up only. At home, if I can call that now, everything feels wrong. I can't tell how hard I'm gripping things. Glass breaks in my hands when I forget to be gentle. Knives slip and slice my fingers, but the cuts seal before the blood hits the sink. I don't flinch when I stub my toe or bump into furniture. Why would I? Nothing lingers long enough to matter. I haven't aged since the incident, not really. The mirror shows the exact same face, the same barely there lines. Friends comment that I look great and ask what I've been doing. I laugh it off. I don't tell them I've been murdered in pieces, over and over in a room with no windows. Sleep doesn't even feel like sleep anymore. It just feels like powering down. Sometimes I wake up in weird places. My couch, the floor. Once, standing in the hallway, staring at the door with my hand on the knob. I never remember going there. Maybe they're still checking in. Maybe they built something into me that the reports back, whether I like it or not. I used to be afraid of dying. Now, I'm afraid that I won't. I don't know if this healing has a limit. I don't know if I'll still be here in 50 years, or 100, walking around in a body that refuses to break permanently, while everyone I know turns to dust. I keep the number they gave me folded in my wallet. Sometimes I think about calling it and asking them to undo whatever they did. But then, I remember the way Hale looked at me, like I wasn't a person, just a successful project. You don't throw away a prototype that finally works. You just keep testing it and improving. The end. I really like that story a lot. I think if we were kind of going to drive into that psychology a little bit of what the person was thinking, I kind of have a good story that goes along with that. There was at one point, kind of about the time of COVID, that I got COVID, and I, from then on out, couldn't really smell or taste. And even to this day, 6 years later, I really can't taste or smell all that much. It's kind of just basic stuff. This thing is salty, this thing is meat, this thing is sweet, this thing is sour. But it's all kind of indistinguishable within those categories. And my smell is kind of still pretty jacked. But at the time, I had just nothing. And it has taken all this time to kind of get back to where I am now. But that was about the same time that I had just gotten onto this anxiety medication that really wasn't a good fit for me, but because I hadn't tried anything else, I didn't know that there was a difference in how each of the medications hit you, which if you didn't know, and you don't like how your medication is affecting you, you can always ask your doctor, and there's guaranteed a bunch of different types, because all the companies have to have their own versions, and they compete with each other. But anyways, so I was on that, and really what it was doing is making me very numb in my emotions. So not only was I having a very kind of gray and emotionless existence, but I also was having a very kind of sensory deprived, brain fog, no taste, no smell experience. And so it was kind of just like being in a dream for probably about 9 months until I really started coming out of it, and I really started, inch by inch started to get my smell and my taste back, and I got off my anxiety meds. But I remember there being a time when I was just getting off the medication, and I was so depressed because I just didn't feel anything. And you'd think, oh, well, don't feel anything. That's a good trade, right? But it occurred to me how necessary it is to be sad. Because if you aren't sad, then you can't be happy. Now this, drug was making it so that I really couldn't be both or either. But my point is, without the contrast, it kind of took away that ceiling for me. It kind of took away the point. So I think I can really relate to this character here in knowing what it's like to just have kind of a thing that you live with every day just taken away and having to have your whole life perception shattered. Now luckily mine wasn't forever. It would be much worse if it was in a case where I was stuck like that and I literally couldn't, do anything about it, and you couldn't, end it in any way. So, yeah, that is kind of like a purgatory that character's in, because, there's not any other kind of superpowers that go along with that, so you could be kind of like Wolverine, and you couldn't really go to the government and say, okay, send me to the front lines of wherever, and I'll just never die and be able to either negotiate peace or whatever. What would you do if you knew that you could live forever and you basically could just never take damage, but you at the same time really couldn't take any pain? That's a great question. I think in our life, we only have good days because of our bad days. And so if you were to remove the bad days, there are no good days. If you were to say, think of your favorite meal of all time. Now imagine that is literally the only meal that you have ever had for your entire life, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, since the beginning up until now. Would it still be your favorite? No, it would just be the only thing you know. So if you were to say, okay, I'm just going to not have any more sad, if I'm not going to have any more pain, well, then what's the flip side that you're no longer getting? What's the happy that you're now missing out on? What's the joy that you're now missing out on? If you don't have any pain, then what is the payoff? For any of those of you who have ever worked really hard at something and seen it pay off, you understand that that pain makes the joy at the end of the tunnel even more. I know that I felt that in my life. So what's the lesson we can take from today's story? Well, I would say, right off the bat, learn to appreciate the contrast in life. Learn to appreciate the suck. Learn to appreciate the good days as well as the bad days. Learn to appreciate the bad days from the good days, making the good days even better. And learn to look forward to the good days from in the bad days. And learn that both are necessary so that you can find joy in both. I think that so much of our lives are determined by our mindset. And so if in those times where you have a day or a week or a month or a year that's awful, you can say, wow, when I'm finally out of this pit that I'm in, how great is it going to be? Because it is. And it'll be that much better because of the pit that you were in. The longer and the deeper the pit that you're in, the better and the higher you'll be when you're out. That's just how it goes. So, if you're in a pit right now, trust that this is going to make the good times even better when it's over. And it will. It will be over one day. You will catch a break. You will be able to get all the things that you want if you work hard. That's just how it goes. So please, with all that, let me know your thoughts down below. Let me know how I could improve my videos. Let me know your lessons that you took from the video. Let me know what you would have done in this scenario. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Once again, I'm Cece. This has been The Crucible of Character. If you enjoyed today's story and you want to see more like it, I do post every day that is a weekday. So please subscribe so you don't miss tomorrow's. And with that, goodbye.